we've got Kevin, who wants to talk about why God gave us free will. This is an interesting topic. Kevin, how you doing?
Hey, you guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, I did want to talk about that topic. More directly, why I think that God believes that free will is important amongst mankind. Because through my research on trying to complete my knowledge of the Bible, I've come across a text, an apocryphal text known as the Testament of Shadrach, which I actually believe is really good research material even for the atheists. Because there's questions. The setting is Shadrach asking God questions, and so Shadrach eventually asked God, well, if you have such bitter punishments for people for the way that they lived, then why don't you correct them? And so God responds with saying that if I were to take mankind by the foot and lead him in every direction that I want him to go, he would then say that you gave me no joy in life.
Okay, and so what's the independent? Let me ask you, Kevin. What's the independent attestation or evidence outside of the fact that you read something? And for example, the example I like to give is that when I read a biology book and it says allele frequencies change in a population over time, which is evolution, I don't just go, "Hey, the book said it," and I compare it to this other claim. No, you can actually look at peer-reviewed studies, or you could actually look at things like the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium and see factors at which evolution is actually at play, right? So we have independent attestation, or we could look at vestigial structures, etc. So I'm just so, and I don't mean to be rude, I'm just so disinterested with the internal stuff. I care about what it is. Like when you read something, you're convinced. Awesome. I can read things that are entirely fake and be convinced as well, solely on the text. So what is the independent evidence that you have for that beyond just reading it?
Well, the independence from all this really comes from realizing simply that, no one is forcing me to do anything or to believe anything that I take in or am convinced of.
Did you pick your genes? Did you pick your parents and your genes?
No. Well, when we're talking about
okay, so then you don't have free will.
People do. Yes, I do have free will.
Can I do a thought experiment with you really fast?
Okay.
So I want you to do me a favor. I want you to envision in your mind any African-American celebrity, anyone at all. And when you've got one, just give us the name.
It's funny you said that. I thought about doing that with the city.
Who came to your mind?
Give you a name of an
Yeah.
I don't know. Jay-Z, Beyonce.
Okay, Jay-Z. Jay-Z came first. Okay, in your mind, Beyonce came second, right?
Okay.
Was that accurate? So your mind gave you Jay-Z. Are you aware of who Kanye West is?
Yes.
Did you make a decision for your brain to not give you Kanye West? Or did your brain give you what it gave you?
My brain just gave me what it gave me.
Why? Why didn't your brain give you Kanye West or Eddie Murphy or Oprah Winfrey or Michael Jordan or Neil deGrasse Tyson? Why did your brain give you Jay-Z? Where did that choice come from?
It didn't come from anywhere. It was simply because it was a quick response. But if given more time, I could have listed all those and more.
Right. And if you were to start making a list, what would the reasons be for listing certain people and not others? Where would those reasons come from? If you said, okay, well, I'm going to make a list and I'm only going to list actors, and actors was the criteria that your brain gave you instead of authors or scientists or comedians, where does that come from? Where's the free will in that?
that just comes from the mind trying to categorize, trying to find similarities and differences amongst those that are listed.
Well, but did you choose how your mind would categorize those things, or is it the byproduct of prior events that also were outside of your control? I know, right?
Well, I mean, when we're talking about human beings and even celebrities, I mean, there's only so much that.
But you don't shift off what
put into a category.
Don't shift off what Kenneth is saying, because like if you listed those, right, you'd have to account for how you exactly had free will from the perspective of that you chose when you had Jay-Z first on that list, why that popped up in the first place and why not something else, right? That's clearly not of your volition. And it
may be the case that you've listened to more Jay-Z than Kanye West, but was that inside your control, or was that the result of atmospheric, influences that also I mean, it sort of turtles all the way down here, man, when it comes to causation. I'm a determinist, so this is where I'm how I look at it is what I'm trying to show you.
Yeah, and I'm not even convinced there's an option of free will. It seems to me there's only an option of random or determining antecedent factors, right? I don't see where the libertarian free will part comes into play. And then if you look into the academia, it fails in almost every single category. I mean, there's no place for it. So that's why I asked you at the beginning, what's the independent evidence? Because it seems the only way that you can prop up an account for free will is by accepting an argument that boils down to a book says a thing. That's it.
And I would tell you this, that thinking about free will was one of the first cracks in the armor that led me away from being a Christian. So, because when I read the Bible and I read Romans 8:29 and 30, or if I read 1 Peter, or if I read Ephesians 1, I see a lot of stuff about God choosing who would be saved before even creating the world. There was an awful lot of stuff.
I see.
Sorry, go ahead.
I see what you're saying. And then when we're talking about things that attribute to reality, unfortunately, we do have the circumstances of, noticing the process that we go through life that, children, which we were all there at one point, often suffer the consequences of their parents. But I don't see that necessarily being different the further we go back in time to the source. You know what I mean? But
I'm not sure I'm following you.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm following either.
That's when subjectivity and objectivity come into question and everything.
I'm not sure I'm following you. We're talking about what are called antecedent factors that are things that are prior to, like a domino effect, essentially. But we're talking about things that give rise to, for example, you choosing Jay-Z. I mean, if you're going to commit to libertarian free will, we're going to have a mechanism to determine at which you actually had the free will. If I go back in time, so whatever time that call, what Kenneth gave you that, those choices, if we went back in time, would you be able to not choose Jay-Z? Well, probably not, because from the perspective, it seems that every antecedent factor is the exact same at whatever time that is. So we have an option between A or B. I don't see how you go back in time, if we could, and you choose B. Everything's still the exact same in that moment. If I don't know where the mechanism we determine where there's this agent causation. Like there's a distinction that people make.
I see
agent causation
exactly
versus real fast, Kevin, real fast. So there's a distinction people make: agent causation versus event causation. I don't think agent causation exists. It's all event causation. It's all things that are having prior effects. To now strip that away because we have consciousness and we have experiential states of the physical does not seem to all of a sudden add this new thing of freedom or free will. I don't get that. And I get compatibilist arguments,
sure, in
some ways, but I don't see how libertarian free will makes the buck there. And
But-
your main evidence was citing some scripture that's not even part of the actual scripture.
Well, and the thing is that without some element of free will, that then most gods very, very quickly, any gods that promise rewards or punishment in an afterlife, certainly become these moral monsters. If a god is all powerful and all knowing and creates creatures and he knows exactly what they're going to do, then punishing or rewarding those creatures for just doing what he created them to do is, I mean, it's truly like grotesque if you think about it. The first question that led me to really studying the Bible was I was reading Ephesians and I saw the part at the very beginning of the book that talks about God preordaining who would be saved. And I said, well, wait a minute. If God knows who is and who isn't going to be saved, why create people that aren't going to be saved? Why create people just for the purpose of punishing them forever, allowing them to live out their life? Like, why? And there's no good answer for that I'm aware of.
Well, I was also going to say that there was no good answer for why I chose Jay-Z and the options that you gave me.
Well, there may be a good answer. We just might not be able to determine what exactly in your, conditioning, you may have heard a Jay-Z song, more recently than a Kanye song, or seen a picture of Jay-Z or something, who knows?
And if free will exists, it's not going to be in virtue of a book says a thing. It's going to be in virtue of the independent evidence that prompts up the case for that. And that's why I want to steer away from the Bible, because I mean, you can make it dance and do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, it's just a book says a thing.
Yep.
That's not good evidence. That's just a book says a thing. That's it.
I don't think it's so much of a dance, because it can be led into other questions like consciousness, because there are certain experiences that make an imprint on our consciousness, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And that's why it's not really an answer, but on why I would choose that answer to the question that you proposed to me earlier, because it made an imprint not on myself, but on a collective level.
I'm not sure how any of that follows, my friend. Listen, we got to move on to some other callers. Hopefully we were able to help, or at least give you something interesting to think about with regards to free will. But yeah, thank you for the call, Kevin.
We're getting all the ones.
Thank you. Interesting talk.
Have a good one.
We're getting all the free wills and moralities and all that.
Yeah.
Today. All the philosophical stuff.